It has been 4 months since the last time that we got news, but Project K is finally known as Riftbound. Just last week, we got a pretty big update that I'm going to talk about today. But I think first and foremost, it's only fair to acknowledge up front that yes, we did get a artwork update and they look absolutely gorgeous. And I cannot wait to see what the alt arts are going to look like because everything that I'm showing here is just the base artwork for these cards, which was previously confirmed. So we have seen the arcane promos that have special texturing and foiling to them. So really there's a lot more to get into, which I'm really excited, and that'll probably be a future video. But for today, I want to dig into the product information that we got and kind of just give my first thoughts and feelings about kind of where the game is going, especially the release date that we got and the good and bad side of that as well. So without further ado, let's get into it and talk about these products. So yes, up first, I want to acknowledge that we got 3 different product lines: the Proving Grounds, which we're going to talk about today, and then the more standard starter decks and booster box, which you would expect. However, I do think the Proving Ground set, it is exactly the type of product that we wanted to see for Riftbound. Now, Riftbound is scheduled to release in October for the United States. Summer for China and other regions is still kind of pending. But especially in the North American market, we know how competitive this fall season is going to be, with a lot of heavy hitters coming out in the summer. So actually beating Riftbound to the punch. However, by having a product like this for only $30 MSRP, by the way, which is insane to compared to the market and kind of where some other pricing is at, you're going to have 4 different deck experiences where one person can purchase this and go invite their friends to either just have a more casual board game setting, right? Or it could just be a great demo tool for local game stores to invest and use as well. And what's really cute that I got to give a shout out to, that I kind of wish we had more, accessories just to reflect on it, is the little standees that you get. I think are just absolutely adorable in this. And we might even see people who are maybe League players but don't really care about like the card side of things, just want to have those for, acrylic stands. And that could also be another way to really get them engaged with the game and buying this product. Now, the disclaimer that I have to add here is kind of a lot of people watching this are most likely from a Bandai background, as that's what I've covered more recently. The devs did mention that there are exclusive cards in this set. However, they're not for competitive play. Now, any good TCG player might honestly take a step back and still say, but it is exclusive cards and they might be good at some point, right? So that is one challenge that we have to make here, that yes, I will probably be buying this, at least with the information we have today. I will likely be buying this just to buy it because those cards might become good at some point later down the road, right? As more sets and gameplay evolve, they might find a home. Of course, this opinion might change as we get those full spoilers, but at least for right now, I am banking on picking this up. And if nothing else, it's going to be, again, great for leaving as a demo product at my local game store to hopefully get more people engaged. But again, for $30 and for what you get, I think this is a very reasonable price product. And again, the most important part of this is being a great entry point for players to then take back to their friends group and get more people involved in Riftbound. And I think that truly cannot be understated enough here, just for how awesome that is, that Riot is thinking ahead in this product design, that really, as I've talked about in the past with like Gundam and Shadowverse Evolved, right, and Star Wars Unlimited, there are a lot of games that are now recognizing that multiplayer is taking a focus, at least at the local level, which is the most important thing for growing a new trading card game. And each one of these different TCGs is kind of broadening it and expanding on it in its own ways. But I think it's very clear that with the way the industry is going, you do need something or alternate game modes to really stand out in the scene and try to get more people to pick up your game, right? Invest in it, invest the time, and go to your local game store. So while I think this is a great product, and obviously I've said a lot of positive things about it so far, I really do hope this means that we will see, like Shadowverse Evolve is doing, Riot is going to take the initiative to make weekly promos that are focused on multiplayer, right? Something that gets players going into these stores to engage with this product, engage with their local scene, and celebrate the IP at the end of the day. This is something that I'm going to repeat quite many times throughout this video, so I apologize in advance. But for, again, someone who does all my market videos, which I just released earlier this week as well, and focusing on just how the industry has trended over the last couple years, I cannot stress enough just how important this is. So I'm really hoping that Riot is thinking about this kind of up front and thinking about different promos or fun ways that they can continue to engage the local scene, right? Lorcana has done things like pins, and for the leaning in the league side of things, right? Like these acrylic stands. There are other opportunities for Riot to kind of lean in here. That's not just your typical cardboard, promo play, shiny foil, alternate art, what have you, right? We see so many times over and over and over in the industry. I think there's definitely an opportunity here for Riot to, engage on the league side of the IP and think about other areas where they can bridge that gap and try to get more league players into the game. Much like Gundam has to expand into the Gunpla community, I would make the argument is the same thing here, where Riftbound needs to expand into that league side of the community, and finding a way to bridge that gap will 100% impact the success of this game overall. I do think it will be successful at the end of the day, but I think that we will see an acceleration of the growth and adoption if Riot is able to lean in and find ways to engage that community. So I'm really excited at least what this means from an upfront standpoint, but of course we do have to wait and see of kind of what their future plans are. There's no roadmap right now in terms of just product scheduling or tournaments and what have you. I really wish I was hoping to get a little of information that could add that to this video, but unfortunately that is something to hold off for a future announcement. So again, overall, I think this is an amazing product. I really like what they're putting together here, and I'll go one step further and say this would be great if they can make it work out, product cycles and design cycles, what have you. Getting this product potentially every year to maybe 18 months to get new key champions, new multiplayer experiences, it's effectively Commander, right? At the end of the day, I think would be a great thing for them to think about as a continuous product to get more players into the game. So, for someone who's played a lot of TCGs, as someone who's been doing a lot of coverage on the market and industries, I really do hope they lean on this a little bit more. Now going into the starter decks, and yes, we have 3 starter decks, which means we get the 6 different runes or colors, or again, whichever short term of the word that you want to use for it, but the 3 different combinations here being Fury and Chaos, Mind Order, and Body and Calm, with Jinx, Victor, and Lee Sin respectively. So on the other side of this, where we mentioned exclusive cards in the Proving Grounds, those that are coming from Bandai Games would be very excited to know that there are no exclusive cards in these starter decks. And you also do get a booster pack. I know a lot of people had sticker shock at first with that $20 MSRP, but when you factor in the $4.99, right, booster pack included as well, that is kind of market rate overall. But I want to give another little special shout out here that I think probably gets missed a lot by just, average TCG news, what have you. But the comment there about upgrade with ease includes 3 rares with a clear path to competitive upgrades, perfect for both newcomers and veterans. If this means up front that they are, kind of including, hey, here's your starter deck, here's a deck list guide, but then also including what that, and, it might be more cookie cutter, as people like to say from a meta standpoint, but if they are including those kind of more meta advanced builds directly in the starter deck boxes, it gives players who maybe not are as up to date with like Twitter or YouTube or various places where they just might be leaning on their local community that can then say, hey, I want to find these cards, right? Here is my list. Can you help me out? Can you look for it? So this is such a small thing that, again, I imagine gets missed by a lot of people, or maybe not as exciting because you just think, hey, it's a starter product, whatever, right? But I think this is a really great nod to help players bridge the gap from your more casual to competitive play, or at least store level play that a lot of other TCGs could really lean on. But again, as I mentioned, no exclusive cards. So those coming from Bandai or other games are used to buying it, Bushy Road, Yu-Gi-Oh, what have you. You can just, if you're someone like me who's going to buy a case of product anyways, I technically don't need to buy any of these starter decks. That said, I probably will fund like one of each just to leave up at my local game store. And if the employee wants to help demo the game to people, they'll have multiple options, right? Just another way to Like the proving grounds are pretty nice, but if you want to see other champions or just other cards and see the different effects and whatnot, it's always good to have this stuff on hand and build like a little battle box, as it were. But again, for a lot of people, I definitely see these starter decks being a bit of a skip, if only because they don't have any exclusive cards. And at the end of the day, I am all for reducing TCG waste. So if I don't have to buy a starter deck to pull like 4 cards out of them and then discard the other 50, whatever, 100%, I'm all on board, but I do understand this is still a product that you need to have in every TCG launch as a way to onboard players. And I'm really hoping, and probably not, but maybe in the future, this would be a great product to also get in at the big box store level, like Walmart, Target, Meijer, what have you, right? That people who are just shopping with their families, they're going to see the League of Legends, right, sticker right on the top of it and go, hey, what's that? Let's check it out. So because the IP name carries so much weight, I do think this would be a great thing to, if they can, get into the big box store and kind of expand the adoption for Riftbound. And last but not least, we have the Set 1 booster box information, or Origins as it's being called, with an MSRP of $120. And I have all the information here, just what is available at the distributor level, copy and pasted as it were. And then while not confirmed, I do have to add the massive disclaimer, subject to change, what have you. And I believe it was WeChat that spoiled this, but we did get this image of what appears to be the 12 legends that we can expect, or leaders, in this first set. So obviously I'm very excited for Teemo, for example, but you have the full list there. Of course, Aurelion Sol being my key card from Legends of Runeterra. I realize that is definitely going to take a little bit of reworking to see its life in a paper form, but really excited to see what they're cooking up. But here's where I also want to add a little bit more context around this, again, especially for those who are coming from the Bandai side. As it exists today with Origins, you're only going to get about 6 epic rarity cards per box, which is the equivalent of the super rare for Bandai games. Typically the top rarity that we're seeing, or at least in Gundam, we don't have the secret rares just yet, but at least based on initial thoughts or what have you, there seems to be about 36 epic individual cards based on the champion breakdown and what have you. So this does mean, from purely if you want to open a case until you get a playset of everything, which is 3 cards by the way, we are looking at potentially 3 cases or 18 booster boxes worth of cards to open that playset. Now that said, no one in their right mind should do that unless you are somehow disconnected from all sorts of trade circles and don't have an LGS, what have you, right? No one in their right mind should be buying that much product just for the sole hope of getting a true master set. However, it does then beg the question of, what is the good number of product to buy? And that, of course, is going to depend on you and your budget. And I don't want to, say, hey, you must buy X amount of product on release. But for me personally, I am definitely going to be buying at least 1 case when it gets a little bit closer and we hopefully know more information about the set. I will probably get 2 cases, just because I know I will have, extra locals that will hopefully want the, bulk side of it. And then we can build out some more friendly, free learn to play decks you can just give to various players as they're coming in and out of the shop. So I want to do more stuff like that. But I would imagine for the vast majority of players, you're going to want to buy 1 case and then just fill it out with singles from there on. So the downside of this is going to be thinking about market prices, right? This then follows a similar product opening rate and, staples most likely to something like Lorcana or Grand Archive, right? Yes, we do have these extra, rares per pack. We'll have to see how the alt arts kind of play a role here. But we have seen time and time again where if there is a epic rarity card that is a staple across multiple decks, and just because of how hard it is to open, it would not be surprising to then see that card reach $30 or $40 or $50 per each individual card, meaning your average cost of deck is going to skyrocket by comparison. So that is one thing that we will have to wait and see on where that lands. But as with every new Set 1 TCG that comes out, I would definitely expect there to be unfortunately, right, a little bit more scalping that is going to happen. So we'll have to wait and see kind of where that lands. Now, the last thing I want to mention here, because there was a little bit of confusion with the distributor information that went out, day one, and that's a major reason why I want to wait to put together this video versus what we have now, is originally the distributor information said that there was one alt art per case. Now, if there was a ultimate rarity, case chase hit, or like SPs in Weiss, or the one per case that we see in Bondi games, what have you, right? That would make sense. However, there was no notice of individual alt arts in each box until we got the update, which mentioned 2 special alt art cards appearing in each box. So this does find itself very similar to Bondi card games and openings that we see. However, just keeping in mind that instead of having a 110 to 125 card set, we now have a 298 card set, I believe was the final count. So it is going to be a much larger set to open, which means it will be slightly more difficult to finish those play sets. But especially if you are someone who's just picking up singles, or you only care about your one, legend and pairing that you're going to be playing, you should still be able to pick up a deck for reasonably affordable cost compared to the rest of the market, because it does have these kind of like double hits per pack, right? And compared to what we've seen in something like Magic per se. So all in all, I think this is a really great lineup, and I am very excited for all things Riftbound. However, I do want to also then acknowledge the other half of this and talk about the industry overall, right? This is set to come out in October, and this has a couple different issues that I want to address, and I hope that Riot is thinking about leading up to the full release and getting people excited, right? First and foremost, we know that Gundam and Hololive, which are 2 very big titles just from a purchasing power, are going to be coming out in July and kind of ahead of the release, which means set 2 for these games will be launching around the same exact time that Riftbound is coming out. And I know a lot of people might just say, hey, different IPs, different communities, who cares, right? And to some point, that is absolutely valid. However, if you talk to your LGS owners, and especially if there are a shop that maybe doesn't have as much seating, ask them about what days do they have available for tournaments, right? We are getting to a point where there are just strictly too many trading card games in the industry and not enough days to host tournaments, especially when you factor in that you automatically lose Saturdays more often than not just to host the various events that all these various games have, anything from store championship to local regionals, what have you, right? So more than ever, there's been a problem with not only having enough shelf space, but literal days in the week where we don't have enough time for tournaments. And to go one step further with that, right? We also then have to acknowledge the problem with releasing so late in the year. October, as I kind of mentioned up front in the Discord as one of the 2 options I expected this to launch in, is going to be challenging when you look at the November and December, holiday timeline, especially here in the States. People disappear, and rightfully so. The weather starts to get worse. People are gone for holidays. It's very difficult to keep momentum going if a game has not been already established. So on top of the issues with just not having enough space or days available for a new card game, players will now be tasked with the role of trying to get people excited and making sure that they're signing up and going to their LGS to support it, so the game just doesn't fall off before it even gets to the next year when we're going to see more of the competitive style events pick up. Now, to be fair, Riot can definitely lean in here as well and give us some really shiny promos and other stuff to keep us engaged in trying to go to the local game store. But as someone who's been doing demos for a lot of different games over the last 10 years and helping with set launches and all that stuff, I can personally say that the November, December, and January timeframe is extremely rough for card games, at least in our region. Again, if you're somewhere where the climate is a little bit better or more temperate, then you probably have a little bit better of luck. But still, with holidays or people traveling, they are going to disappear for a little bit. So that is, again, kind of the 2 key pain points I at least foresee at the end that I wanted to acknowledge up front. And again, at the time of this recording, I don't have a roadmap or unfortunately anything else to share, but we do know that for the people working on the game, they have played other games like Magic the Gathering, and they're at least aware of things like Friday Night Magic and the importance of supporting locals. So I definitely don't think that they're just going to launch this game and have nothing. However, we don't have any confirmation so far about what their plans are. So that was our quick recap on all things Riftbound. Again, I am very excited for this game to launch later this year because it is so different compared to everything else on the market. Obviously, I did a lot for Legends of Runeterra back in the day, and I just loved getting into the game and learning more about the IP because, again, I was not a League person growing up. I really got reintroduced with Legends of Runeterra. Love the world building, love the artwork that we got to see, and I really hope that is going to be continued with Riftbound. But let me know your thoughts. Are you excited for Riftbound? Was the artwork direction good enough? Or are you looking at it from it's too late in the year, there's so many other big games and titles coming out that you're just not sure how it's going to fit in? Definitely let me know in the comments below. But with that out of the way, more Riftbound content to come in the future. I've been working on a new overlay. I'm hopefully going to record a gameplay before I go on my trip. We'll see how that works or not, so no promises, but I definitely want to at least record one game when I'm back to put on the channel so people can see it. But of course, there is a ton of great content out there today if you are interested on YouTube to go check it out. But until next time, my friends, we get more content out there. Stay safe, stay hydrated, and we'll see you in the next one. Cheers.